We're going to start Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, which is 7 lines from the bottom. Yeah, 7 lines from the bottom. Okay. Thank Hashem. We're able to learn every day. It's supposed to be learning. So this in English immediately. Okay, so in the Mishnah we had Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah saying that the commitment for the Kesuba was at the time of the betrothal, but the commitment for the additional part, it's called Tesefes Kesuba, that was from the time of the marriage. And that's what looked like an understanding that the husband made that commitment only if they would end up getting married. If they didn't end up getting married, then she would only collect the 200 or the 100, depending on if she was a virgin or not. Well, Itmar, we have a statement from Amiraim. Itmar usually introduces a statement from Amiraim, that's a machlekes. Well, Rav or Rab Nosson. Rab Nosson is probably older than Rav. He's Rab Nosson, friend of Rab Meir. No? So, Chadamar halachik Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. One says the halach is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That means that the commitment to the full Kesubah is from the time of marriage, but from the Erusin is already the original. There's only the original from the betrothal. There's only the 200. That's arguing on Tanakama that says that from the betrothal she can collect everything. So Rav says Allah like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. One says Allah is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. When it does this, it doesn't tell us who holds what. There's one holds this and one holds that. Now the Gemara wants to figure out, well, who's the one that says this? Okay, so it goes like this. Tistayim, let it be settled. The Rab Nosson who damar alachik Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. It must be Rab Nosson that's following Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Shamin lay the Rab Nosson, because we've heard what Rab Nosson says. Because he says you follow the assumption. How do they translate umdana there? You follow a supposed assessing intention. That means you try to figure out what the person is thinking. Because the person didn't stipulate exactly when he's committed to which amount. But all of this is that we're assuming what he would have committed to. Now, where do we see that Rab Nosson is the one that holds like this? Rab Nosson, because Rab Nosson says, Rab Shimon Shazuri b'mesukan b'trumas ma'aser shel demai. So the background to this is that if a person is going on a long trip and he says, write a get, he says to witnesses, and says, write a get to my wife. Now, usually if he would say that, write a get to my wife, they would write the get, but they wouldn't give it yet until they would ask him. But if he's on his way on a trip and he's saying, write a get to my wife, then we're assuming that he really wants it to be given. But why didn't he say give it? He didn't say give it as well, because he was in a rush. Right. Yeah. So Rab Nosson says that opinion, Rab Nosson says that the halacha like Rab Shimon Shazuri, that adds in one more point. He says that if the person is on his deathbed and he says, write a get to my wife, so also we assess his intention that he actually wants it to be given, because on his deathbed he doesn't make jokes or any tricks or anything. He says to write it, that means he wants to follow through.
You could always question his comment, like, did you want me to give it to her?
Right. You know? But Rab Nosson is ready to say that the halacha is like those opinions that say that we do assess it, and we consider in those situations it's considered we consider our conclusion is that he wanted to give it. Okay. So you see, Rab Nosson is of the view that we can assess his intention. That's in another point of b'trumas ma'aser shel demai. What happens over here is that demai is food that was purchased from a someone that we don't know 100% if he's careful with his Maisa. So here we have someone that purchased food from, it's called the Amaretz, someone we don't know if he's really careful with his Maisa. And then he separated the Meiser. He separated, I guess, the Chumas Meiser, or the Levi would separate the Chumas Meiser. Problem is, it fell back into the original grain. So now the only way to eat this now would be to sell it to a Kohen for much cheaper. That would be a loss. So what Reb Shimon Shizuri says, or what Reb Shimon Shizuri says, that what you do is you go and you ask the person if he actually took Meiser. Usually you don't trust him, but in this case, because there's a loss, we can trust him. Okay, that's another point that Reb Shimon Shizuri says, that Reb Nosson says that Allah is like him. Usually on Shabbos you can trust him. You can trust the person on Shabbos, either because he wouldn't lie on Shabbos. Shabbos is such a holy day, or we're more lenient because of Einik Shabbos, because we want the people to be able to enjoy Shabbos, so we gave a leniency. Right. But you can ask him and see if he actually took Juma, then you're all set. Original owner should know what he did. Yeah. If he did, yeah, he just wasn't careful with it. Then he would say if he doesn't remember. That's what we're assuming. In this instance, and we're going to ask him and we're going to trust him because of the loss of all the other grain. Okay, so what we've just said now is that Rabbi Nosson is the one that holds that we can make the assessment of his intention and decide what he would have intended to agree to for the ksuba. Okay. The Gemara says, and what you're telling me is Rav doesn't do an assessment of intention. But we have a statement, when someone's on his deathbed, what he says doesn't need to be, you don't need to do the act of a kinyan. It's already considered like it's given over. Usually you have to make a kinyan, let's say pick this up or whatever. But on his deathbed, Divrei Shchivmira are like given over already. He says this should go to him, this should go to him. You don't have to make a kinyan when he starts dividing up his things or saying what things need to go where. But let's say it did have a kinyan in it. It's written in the word in his I guess document. It says that we made a kinyan or they should make a kinyan. So Rav, the Bei Rav, Mishmei the Rav Amar, Arkavei Atrei Rikshe. Rikshe, I think, means horses. He's riding on two horses. That means that he has the power of both sides over here. We're going to see in a minute what that means. Shmuel says, I'm not sure exactly what the halacha is in such a case. Because again, it's the words of a shchiv mirah. That means someone that's on his deathbed, which should be binding, but it also has something extra that says that there was a kinyan in it as well, which is also binding. So it has a double strength. And Shmuel says, actually, I'm not sure if that's the case. The house of Rav says it's riding on two horses. First of all, there's a kinyan there. There's that acquisition, that there's a kinyan. Now, that becomes like a matnas bari. Matnas bari means a healthy person's gift. Why? The im amad and it's also like the gift of someone that's on his deathbed. What do you mean? It's like a healthy person. By a person on his deathbed, when he gives a gift, if he then like surprisingly recovers, so then he takes it back. I didn't realize. So he was giving everything away. I thought he wasn't going to need it anymore because he was, going to the other world. But then said, he recovers, so they have to give it back. But here, it's at a kinyan in it. So it's not matnas chivmira, it's a matnas bari. So even if he recovers, it's still binding and it still goes to the recipient. Next point, it's also the matnas chivmira because he was a chivmira, he was on his deathbed. Shemamar halvasi leplani, halvasi leplani. If he says that someone owes him money, he's able to give that over to someone else. So give the rights to collect that to someone else. Now, usually you can't really do that unless you make some sort of special transaction. But here it's just with him saying this. So he's able to give over that debt. So it has both powers: the power of a healthy person, also has the power of the shemira. Shmuel Amar Leyadana Mayad. Shmuel says, I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe what he wanted to do is that he wanted it to be given over with a document, because he wrote, I guess, in the document that this document is the kinyan, I guess. So it's not going to be given unless the document is given. Now, if that's the case, once he dies, then you can't give it over because the transaction didn't take place yet. And after he's dead, there's no transactions anymore. So Shmuel says, I'm not really sure. He may have messed everything up by writing the kinyan in the document. Okay. What do we see over here? We see from Rav that Rav is saying that there's an umdana. What's the reason why Rav said that there's a kinyan? Why the shivmira? Why the person on his deathbed says that there's a kinyan also? It's because he wants to strengthen the transaction. You see, but this is assessing his intention. See, Rav also assesses the person's intention. Why do you add a kinyan in? Because he wants to strengthen what he's doing. But even if he gets up, even if he recovers, it should still be a good transaction. Rather, going back to the machlokes, Rav and Rav Nassan were arguing about if the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah regarding if a woman gets widowed from the betrothal, did the husband commit to the extra part of the ksuba from then? Where Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says no.
Well, what about a written statement though? Does that also strengthen the kinyan as well, as opposed to just being not that to this kinyan is yours?
Well, a written document, certain things are required by a document. You hand over the deed, and that's considered the position. Right? It's not the writing of the document; it's the handing over of the document. So here he has a document that's written that says in it that this is the kinyan. And then, so if it's getting messed up because he's passing away and it wasn't handed over, then it's not a matnas shivmira. Have to work it out exactly. What exactly happened? Was there a kinyan or was there not a kinyan?
We see that a lot when people pass away. We see like the will that has been given to the parties involved, except these are like a judge would get that over.
Right. Yeah. But there still is the will is considered when he signs it.
Oh, yeah. Where's Ethan?
Yeah.
So
if the document is the kinyan, then it needs to be handed over. Or the document could just be a record of what took place, but it could also be a kinyan. There's different types of documents. I guess what's happening here is that there was no kinyan. He just says that there's a kinyan. He says that he wants there to be a kinyan.
that's the intention of statute.
So what Rav says is that what he means is not that there needs to be a kinyan. Rav says what he means to say is that it's considered a matnas bari. It's a healthy person's gift, and that's assessing his intention. And Shmuel says no, maybe you just messed it up. That it only works if the kinyan took place. That's what it seems.
Interesting. But it, last couple
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, that's Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah's view. Where we have to assess what his intention was. Okay, so now the Gemara says, Manda Amar Halacha Shaper, the one that says Allah Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, well, okay, that follows that we do assess his intention. Manda Mein Halacha, Hachanami Amden Daito. If we don't pass him like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, so why do we say that we assess a person's opinion? That's what Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah says. If you assess the opinion, he doesn't go like him. It says Mishum Akruvi Daito, Vakruvele Daita. Why does he commit to giving her a ksuba? Because of the closeness that he has with her, the affection that he feels. And well, when does he commit to that? Well, so we're assuming that the Tesefes ksuba is a commitment. He's adding that in because of the marriage. Because, oh, we're going to get married, let me give you something extra. But that's the view of Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. But the one that doesn't pass like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah says no, that he already feels that closeness already from the Eirson, from the betrothal. She agreed to, he proposed, she agreed, okay, who's adding extra in? The machlekes is not if we assess his intention. The machlekes is we do assess his intention, but what is his intention? Is it from the wedding or is it from the betrothal? Yeah, that's what it appears. Okay. Yosef Rav Chanina, the Bach adjusted to Rav Chanina Kra, Kamei Rav Yanai. Rav Chanina is sitting in front of Rav Yanai, but Kamar Halachic Rav Elazar ben Azariah. It says the halacha is like Rav Elazar ben Azariah. Okay. Amar Lei. So Rav Yanai says, Puk Kari Karach Lebra. Go read your psukim outside. Rather, Ein Halachic Rav Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha is not like Rav Elazar ben Azariah. We have the same machlekes that we had with Rav and Rav Nassan over here.
that would be that expression means read the verses outside.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell us stories over here. Okay. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi Mishum Rabbeinu. Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi says in the name of our teacher. Now, who is our teacher? Rashi says the teacher is Rav. Tosfos says the teacher is Rebbe. Says I think there's two Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimis. Well, and the question is which one is talking about. So he says that halacha Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha is like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. Rav. We thought that it was Rav Nassan that held like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, but then we said no. We didn't really have any proof who held what. But if Rav Yitzchak bar Avdim is saying in the name of Rav, then we're just proving it. That Rav was the one that said halacha like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah.
That's in the name of Rabbi Yohanas.
That's the way. How do you say over there? Name of Rabbi Danasi? He's following Tosfos. Yeah. So the Quran is following the view of Tosfos. Rav says that Rashi says that it's in the name of Rav, which is not Rabbi Danasi. It says the name of our teacher, who is our teacher. So. Okay. That the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman says the name of Shmuel. Halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. However, Rav Nachman Didei Amar Ein halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. It's interesting. He says over in the name of Shmuel that the halacha is yes like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, but he says, but I don't hold like that. I hold the halacha is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. he doesn't hold like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, then what that means is that if there's a divorce or a death, the husband dies after the betrothal, before the wedding, then the wife takes the hoax of everything, even the additional time. It's only according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that she only gets the 200 or 100. It's a big difference here. However, in Nardai, they said in the name of Rav Nachman that the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And they said that even though the lot of Rav Nachman cursed, anyone that paskins like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, such and such should be. I don't know what that means. Did they elaborate on that? What is that?
Unspecified misfortune.
Yeah. Yeah. Rav Nachman is a student of Rav and Shmuel. Yeah. Nevertheless, halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. This is tough. So what do you do over here? Someone wants the curse of Rav Nachman, or he wants to follow what he says. You can't get away. The halacha lamaisa Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Gemara paskins for us. Halacha lamaisa is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. I think people usually think that that's the Gainim, but Rashi says Hashaska pasuk. The Shasas. Who says? What do you have over there? Who's ruling that? Halacha lamaisa.
There's not anyone in specific. Just
Okay.
the Gemara.
Yeah. Right. That halacha is or is not? Oh, really? The Rambam passes like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Okay. Okay. Now we have to line it up. I'm sorry?
It says Shulchan Aruch also.
Also,
Rambam
halacha
and
is
Shulchan
Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah.
Nasi also because he's been Kesubos.
Oh, so if he's following Tosfos, then that would be where he's passing like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Passing like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Usually, well, halacha kibasroi, according to some views, would mean, who is the latest over here? Who gives us the? Okay. It's okay because our Gemara says halacha l'maisa. So it could be possible. It's clear in the Gemara.
Doesn't it give preference over what yeah.
Yeah, there's contradictory rules of how to paskin. That's why we have all the commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, because some rules say, well, you always follow the latest view. Others say, well, if there's an argument between the teacher and the student, then you follow the teacher, not the student, which is exactly the opposite of following the latest rule. So it gets complicated. Yeah, they have to, and there's different ways of answering those contradictions. Depending on how you want to answer those contradictions, and that's how you. Yeah, there's a way of studying halacha by studying the rules and then going back and looking at all of the. A lot of the psak is based on the rules, and it's based on the machlokes and of how to resolve the contradictions in the rules. Okay. Right. Oh, you Ravin. Well, we pass on like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, so the Gemara says Ravin has a question. This is getting nitty-gritty. We said that when does she acquire the whole ksuba? That's only from the marriage, but not from the betrothal. Okay, so what is the marriage? Let's say they have the wedding, but he doesn't actually consummate the marriage. Does she acquire the whole ksuba just from the wedding? Chibas bia kaina? I'm sorry, chibas chuppah kaina? Is it the wedding, the chuppah, that causes him to give over the whole ksuba, that additional amount? Oh, chibas bia kaina, or is it the relations that he has? Is that what caused him to give it over? Tashamas to come and listen to Tani Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, "Shalai kasav al chibas laila rishon." Yosef is explaining Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that the reason why he gives it over then is because of the affection, the endearment of the first night. Okay, what does it mean the first night? If you say that it's the wedding, because the wedding is the first night. If it's because of the relations, so the relations is only the first night, not after that. Why does he say it's the first night? I think what he means is that not necessarily will they have relations on the first night after the wedding, maybe not relations the second night after the wedding. So it's not the first night. The only thing that's for sure is the first night is the wedding is the first night. After that, when they so what does Rabbi Yosef mean? It's the affection of the first night. That means it's the wedding. Where it says, "Vela my chuppah," what do you want to say? It's the wedding. Chuppah b'layli sibi mamalesa. A wedding is only at night. Why do you mention the night? Wedding could be by day. So the Gemara says, well, according to you, what are you trying to resolve? I get the problem, but what is your solution? Say it must be in relations, because relations is at night. Relations can't be by day. Rava said, that if the house is dark, they can have relations in during the day. So the first night doesn't really tell you that it's the relations. So like that's you're trying to tell me that they could theoretically have relations during the day. That's not an issue. It's telling me, it's telling me what's the normal manner. To be a balayla, that relations is at night. Kasha. So
Today,
second. Let's go. To be a balayla. To be a balayla. Oh, so what was our question before? We said Rabbi Yosef's expression was Kibas Laila Rishon. I don't know what he means, Ela Chuppah Kasha. What he means is Rishon Kasha. Why did it have to be the first night? Oh, no. What it means is like this. It's coming to tell us, if you want to tell me that it's chibas bia, that it's the affection of the relations, then the fact that it says by night, then very good, because that's the normal manners at night. But if it would be the chuppah, then the chuppah could be by day. So the Gemara says chuppah nami like kasha. That's not a problem that it says that it's at night, because even the stam chuppah lebia kaima ayrach ara kamashmalan de balayla. Since what's the point of the wedding is to afterwards have relations, so it's coming to tell us that the relations is at night. So it says the affection of the night. Yeah, we're going to discuss that. Where did that come up? Next point. Yeah, the next point. That's the next point. That's coming up right now. Yeah.
is the consummation immutable, or when they go on the window for the hotel? Because I know what if there's yichud, that's assuming that there's
Right. But actually, the room is not the consummation.
you can consider it that way.
Right. Well, yichud would be, according to the opinions that he's taking her into the house. He's taking her into the house. If that's considered the wedding, so he brought her into her house, to his house. No, I think the question is, when does he commit himself to the additional part of the ksuba? Yeah, so we know that he commits himself to the nesuin, but which part of the nesuin? We're not asking when does the nesuin take place. I think that's a separate machlekes. Here we're asking, when does he agree to them? It's assessing his intention. You don't divide this in half. You just say, from the wedding, then he commits to the extra part. Okay, so you just put it all together in one lump with the wedding. So if after the wedding he passes away, then good. But let's say he passes away in the middle of the wedding. So now is the first part of the wedding what he committed to, or is it the second part, or is it the consummation? Yeah, so we're dividing in the wedding part, we're dividing it in half. Which part do you want to say? Like a Rabbi Yirmiyah type of question. Is it to this or to that? Right.
Choked on with, moving truck. You're getting, the travel. You committed there for when released by committed. And then you break off.
Yeah, so he only has to pay the original Kesubos, which is 200 or 100.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's not, he committed himself to an extra $100,000 if they get divorced. Now we're talking about that. He threw on some other, whole other amount. Okay,
The first part's only $10,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in modern days, if the guy gives a girl a ring, say $10,000 ring, take the engagement. That might.
yeah, because we don't do it, our engagements are not really, Harrison, it's not the program. Our engagement is an agreement that they're going to show up at the wedding. Because both sides are starting to put in a lot of money into the wedding. If one of them rejects, they think there's going to be a lot of money. The hall, the dress, the flower, the caterer, all of this stuff. But it's really just a commitment that you're not going to back out before the wedding. Yeah. What happens when they do? They end up in Besdin. If they backed out for a good reason, then something they didn't know, this and that, then they could get off the hook. And if there was like, what, you should have known that before, or this, or you just changed your mind, that's not allowed.
I mean, there's no get.
There's no get.
Yeah.
There's no get. No, but it's nevertheless we have to deal with complications.
Like that, some condition that they didn't know about. That was
Right. No. Right, that happened. That would be an excuse. That would be yeah.
And they didn't set up a theater.
Yeah, that's fine. But a lot of times there are losses. That's it. Okay. Please have us. Right. Right.
Other parts that we talked about. Putting something to
Right.
a higher standard.
Right.
That part of the contract.
Right. Right.
So they like to stick cutting the contract.
Yeah. Well, he's dividing the wedding and yeah. When we say that he commits at the wedding, which part of the wedding is it? Yeah, well, it comes out in other places.
Yeah.
No, that's a different question. Yeah, that's a different question. Like which part of the wedding is the bringing into the house? Is it this? Is it? Yeah, we've had discussions like that. I'm sorry, Daniel.
I couldn't hear Rob Naftali, but I think it's the same thing. Like, yeah, it seems like kind of artificial to say chibas bia. Like you were committing to providing once you're married. You're already married. You already had the chuppah. Why would you differentiate between the different parts? I mean, it seems like a stretch. I don't know.
Uh-huh. I think what the Gemara is asking is, there's the commitment part of the marriage, and then there's the passionate part of the marriage. He just threw on an extra $100,000 for this. Why? It's not the regular business, regular procedure. You know, would be okay. That's what do I owe? That's it. That's what he owes. But he's adding this additional part. We're thinking that maybe there's some. It's coming just because of the beer. He wants to throw that on. That's I think it's something like that. Okay. Look, if you wanted a discount, yeah, he had it last. He's paying extra. Right. Okay, Boy Ravashi, I'm sorry. Boy Ravashi. Ravashi has a question. This was you mentioned. Let's say they have the chuppah, but before they have relations, she becomes a nida at the wedding. Now, here we're going in. We had two ways of saying this before. This is like a flowchart. You could say we had two sides. Is it the wedding or is it the relation? Even if you say that it's the wedding, which they had already, but nevertheless, in this instance, chuppah dechazi labia. It would only be a wedding that concludes with relations. But a chuppah that's not going to have be afterwards, not fit to have relations afterwards. Loy, maybe not. To such a wedding, he never would have committed himself. Maybe there's no difference. The wedding is the wedding. So take it. I'll leave that as a question as well. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda says that a person can write the wedding, the ksuba, can write 200, and she replies, she says back, but I've received 100, which means that she forgives 100 of the 200. Or if she's a widow and having her second marriage, so he writes to her 100 is in the ksuba, and she says that I've received 50. The Savar Rabbi Yehuda, the Kaisvan Shaver, Rabbi Yehuda holds that you write a receipt, but we have a Mishnah, Misha Paramikta. If someone paid up half a debt, Rabbi Yehuda, I have to rewrite the whole document. You don't get a receipt for half. You rewrite the whole promissory note. You started with $100. You paid up 50. So you rewrite the note that it's now he borrowed $50. Why does Rabbi Yehuda say that? He doesn't want to put the responsibility on the borrower. They have to watch the document. The guy's going to pull out the promissory note, the IOU. It's going to say that he owes 100, and if he loses his receipt, he's going to end up having to pay 100. So we just have him rewrite the whole document. That's Rabbi Yehuda's view. Now, why over here are we saying that by the ksuba, she says that you've paid me 50, and that you've paid me 50, or you paid me 100 already, and then she just has a receipt. Not she has a receipt. He has a receipt, but she can pull out the ksuba again. He has to hold the receipt. Why is Rabbi Yehuda switching his view when it comes to a wedding, where the husband has to hold the receipt, just in case his wife pulls out the full document, and by a regular promissory note, we rewrite the whole document. Rabbi Yossi, on the other hand, he holds that there's no problem that to write a receipt. Yeah, let the borrower have to hold the receipt that half was paid, and it's fine. Why does Rabbi Yossi say that? Rabbi Yossi says that if you rewrite the document, then all the liens that are on the property have a new date on it, and the original debt is an earlier time. So you can't rewrite the document. It's another problem that you create when you do that. Right. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbi Yirmiyah says we're not actually writing a receipt that we're giving over to the husband that he has to hold on to. We're writing in the ksuba that he commits to 200, and he gave already 100. So in the ksuba itself. So who holds this? Who holds this document? The woman holds it up. As soon as she pulls it out, it already has the receipt already in it. We don't make the husband have to hold on to the receipt. Abaya says you don't need to give that answer. That in the ksuba itself, you write that extra thing. Especially Mahasam, there's a huge difference. What's going on over here? You're comparing these cases to be able to recognize what's happening over there by the loan. Vaday paray. Vaday over here means actually. He actually paid up 50. Dilma merchas tavarta. Maybe he's going to lose the is the shaver, the top and the shin. He's going to lose the receipt. Then he's going to take out the document. And he's going to collect the second time the half that was paid up already. That's a problem. Over here, did he actually pay half the ksuba? He didn't pay half the ksuba. She was just meichelet. She just said that you paid me half, which is like she forgoes half. Inatra. Now, if he watches the receipt, then good. Ilai natra, you would have said on nafsha, so he lost out. What do we care if she's going to pull out the receipt, if she's going to pull out the ksuba and collect again? She's the one that gave him the gift. That it's okay. Consider it like you paid me half. Well, good. If he holds on to the receipt, then good. If not, so it's not like he actually paid. He never paid anyway. If he wants to have that, it's like it's like coupons. And then it's okay. You gotta whatever.
In American law, would be like there's no consideration.
There's no
This idea.
consideration.
Like you have to. It has to be an exchange for it to be a valid contract. Here, she's just giving him a gift.
Right. But over here, ultimately, if she does give him the receipt and he has the receipt, then it's good. But if he loses it, then Abaya says, what's the difference? Okay. Abaya doesn't want to say like Rabbi Yirmiyah, like Tani Shavarta Mitaycha, because the Mishnah didn't say that the shaver was inside, that the receipt was part of the ksuba. However, Ella Rabbi Yirmiyah, my time Abaya, why doesn't Rabbi Yirmiyah say like Abaya? He gives us an interesting answer. It says Gezerah shaver dehacha to shaver dalma. Well, once you're going to start using receipts over here, you're going to start using receipts in other places. We never do receipts according to Rabbi Yehuda. And so why are you doing receipts? It must be the receipt is inside. Time of the kasvala. Okay, now the Gemara says it did mention. Rabbi Yehuda says V'hi kaiseves is kabalti memcha, that she has to write the receipt. Let's say she doesn't write the receipt. Let's say she just says, "I'll pay." It's verbal. Aval al pelai, that would be nothing. Why is it nothing? It's a monetary agreement. If someone makes a condition in a monetary agreement, the condition is effective. So he says, I'm going to give you 200, and there's a document for that. And she says, consider half of it paid. So that should be effective. Why does she have to write a receipt for that? The Tanya was taught in a brayso. This is a prenuptial agreement. If someone tells to a woman, he says, "Behold, you are married to me, betrothed to me, but on condition that you never claim any food, clothing, or marital relation." So, Harizim Kadeshes, the marriage takes place, Utanai Batal, and you just ignore all of those conditions because it's a violation to the Torah rules. Divir Rab Meir. So the marriage takes place and all of those conditions don't work. You ignore the prenup. Rabbi Yehuda Imer, B'davar Sheb Mammon Tanai Kayim. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, 1 second. There are 2 parts of this that are monetary: the food and the clothing. And on food and clothing, he can make a condition. And so if she agrees to that marriage, so that part is effective. Marital relations, that was not a monetary agreement, so that part is not effective. He agrees to that she can claim that he has to have relations with her because they got married. So, but I made that agreement. He said, well, that agreement's nothing. It's void. But the monetary part is effective. You see, Rabbi Yehuda holds that a monetary stipulation is effective even if it's verbal.
What, withholding intimacy?
It is in the Torah, but because she can forgive it. Yeah. So why does Reb Meir not say that she could forgive it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure why Reb Meir says that. That everything is batal, including the monetary. Fine. No, the relationship is the Tanai is batal. The stipulation of the condition is nothing. Yeah, I'm not sure. I see there's a Taisus here, but it looks like a big discussion. Okay, so we have a question now. Why does it have to be written? Rabbi Yehuda holds you can make a condition, a verbal condition. So it says, because the ksuba is rabbinic. And the rabbis strengthened the rabbinic laws that in order to get out of part of the ksuba, there has to be a written part, there has to be written down. Well, the Gemara says, right, Rabbanan. When the husband eats the fruits of the wife's property that she brings into the marriage, that's also rabbinic, that he's able to do that. And the rabbis didn't say that it has to be written down. The Tanan, we have a Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, he says that he eats from her fruits until he writes the document. It's over here, it says writes the document, but we're going to adjust it in a moment. That I have nothing to do with your property, fruits and all of that. But until then, he gets to eat the fruits of her property. The Kaimal on my Kaisiv, and we've established what does it mean that he writes that? Omer, that he just says it. And that's a rabbinic law. And it's a rabbinic law. The rabbis didn't make it stronger by saying that it has to be written. Amar Abaya, lakol yesh ksuba v'lo lakol yesh peres. Everyone gets a ksuba, but not everyone that gets. Not every woman comes in with the property that the husband can eat the fruits. Milsa de shchicha, something that's always there of the barabanat, or that's very, very common. Yes, it's more than common. Of the baraban chizik, the rabbis strengthened it that it has to be written if you want to get out of any part of it. Milsa de shchicha, but something that's not common, lay of the rabban chizik. The rabbanan didn't strengthen that. The Gemara says 1 second. Harei chamarim de shchichi. This is talking about donkey drivers that show up with the grain. We had this in earlier in this Masechta. And the rabbis didn't strengthen it. The Tanan, we have a Mishnah. Donkey drivers enter the city. One of them says, my grain is new grain. It's not so good. My friend's grain is old and it's hard. It will grind better. My grain, Meiser wasn't taken. But my friend's grain, Meiser was taken. You say that he's not trusted. Rabbi Yehuda says he is believed. Now, 1 second. We see that this is something common, and we're just going to trust him just because of, you say we're not Chashin and Legaimlin, this is called, but maybe they make this up. This is a conspiracy that they go, this town you'll say yours is, you'll say mine is better. And next time I'll say yours is better. Maybe that's what they're doing. Amar Abaya says, you're right. If there's something that's definitely an issue, then the rabbis strengthen it that it has to be written down and all of that. But Safik to Devrayim, this anyways, we don't know that there was ever a problem here. We don't know that the Meiser wasn't taken. Maybe it was taken. So the rabbis didn't have to strengthen that because the whole thing was just a doubt. Rava says it doesn't have to do with if it's a suffix or not. It has to do with the special leniency that we have by Demai. Demai, we said, was the produce that was purchased from someone that we don't know. If Meiser was taken, Rava says that since most people take Meiser anyway, you can be more lenient on that, and the rabbis didn't have to strengthen it, that we need a more concrete proof. Let's leave it over here.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good day.